guys? Welcome back. We are jumping into Best Ball Mania, drafting for $2 million. The draft is underway. Had a little trouble getting my setup going, but we are in it. Gibbs, Robinson, Chase, Nakua, Smith and Jigba, St. Brown, McCaffrey, Lamb, Taylor, all off the board. We are on the clock. Now, the last time I was posed with this decision, I opted for James Cook. I'm doing it again. I think we're drafting from the 11 in the last one, so just move it over one, slot to the left. If you don't know me, I'm a massive, die-hard Buffalo Bills fan, and it still has nothing to do with that selection. Let me explain. James Cook, if you've had him on your fantasy football team in the last couple of years, has been a staple player week to week, giving you consistent, elevated production. And then occasionally he's off for 36 points as well. Okay, we're back on the clock. I'll go into James Cook a little bit more. I'm James Cook's hype man. Of this crew, I guess we're going to click into Saquon pretty easily. We know he's done it. We've seen him do it. Let's hope he does it again. Going back to Cook. Okay, if you've had him, you already know what I'm talking about. If you haven't had James Cook, he consistently exceeds what you expect someone from his draft position to produce, which is why he's a first-round pick this year. That being said, I don't think we've seen his career ceiling yet. I don't think we've seen Cook's best season. 2 years ago, when he posted 15 touchdowns, everybody spoke about the regression that was going to take place. And yeah, he regressed and was still the number one rusher in the league. That offense is so high-powered, and I don't think we've seen it as balanced as it can be. They've been more run-heavy than they have been pass-happy over the last couple of years. You might say, well, he's the running back. You want them to be run-heavy. Not exactly. A balanced offense actually is where James Cook will thrive the most. And what I mean by that is an uptick in his actual receiving yards, which he gets some of. But Tyron Johnson's really the receiving back, or has been on field for receiving snaps more than Cook has been. Even Ray Davis, to a degree, last year. That being said, in a balanced offense, I think we actually see a world where Cook can get 30 to 40 receptions. And in that type of environment where this is a half-point PPR, I am super happy to see where he can land and may be in for his best year yet. And I, this year, have James Cook forecasted to be the third best running back off the board. Yes, McCaffrey and Taylor could be equally three, but I think he could be the third best running back off the board. So getting him at the price of 10, when I think he could produce closer to a Bijan Robinson than he has in the past, is such a good value. That being said, I am a little tepid on Justin Jefferson. Kyler Murray, what's he going to look like? What's that offense going to look like? If Jefferson can be who he was or has been, with the exception of last year, then maybe he was the right pick there. I just think Cook is too elite of a piece at this end of the board to pass up. Now, you might say, hey, man, I've seen a ton of your videos. I've seen you draft. If that's the case, why haven't you been taking Cook up here over, McCaffrey, Smith, and Jigba? And to that, I would answer, this is Best Ball Mania. This is a $25 entry. A lot of the drafts I've done have been significantly cheaper. I don't know how many fast puppies I've done, or, the drafts where I'm entering multiple bullets. I tend to let ADP just dictate the diversification of my exposure. I probably want to be a little, based on the way I feel, I want to be a little underweight on Taylor, a little underweight on Jefferson, a little underweight on Lamb, and a little underweight on McCaffrey. But Genty, Cook, Smith and Jigba, Puka, Chase, Robinson, and Gibbs, and I'd actually have more exposure if I could get it on these guys. I want as much exposure as I can be provided there. Because of that, I tend to just relegate drafting Cook to this end of the board when I'm firing multiple bullets, because otherwise I'll end insanely overweight on Cook, and as high as I am on him in a tournament like this, I want to diversify my exposures. Here, I'm just going to snap off Ladd McConkey. I do like Allen. I hope that he wheels. But Ladd is entirely too enticing, where I think he's in for a career year as well. And if Allen doesn't wheel, I will be sad. But Justin Herbert is probably in for a massive year as well. And that offense, now steamed by Mike McDaniel, I'd rather pay around 7 or 8 prices for Justin Herbert. What's his ADP? I want to say he goes end around 8. He's 82. So 7. Oh, excuse me. He goes around 7. I'd rather pay, or 6 rather. What's his ADP? Herbert is at ADP 82. Okay. So right in here. Going in the 7th round. That's where I'd love to be taking that quarterback. All right, we're back on the clock. We want a wide receiver. I'm going to snap in Terry McLaurin here. Um, I think he is another candidate for a career year if Daniels can stay healthy. It also now lets us consider Daniels here at 63, depending on how we want to go. Um, 2 years ago, we saw what McLaurin could be. If we get that performance again, we're in great shape. The other click would have been Neighbors, and maybe that's the right pick. And yesterday, I was in a draft where Neighbors was going up here in the early, kind of not 2-3 turn, but just past it. You could absolutely convince me that Neighbors was the right selection here with McConkey instead, right? If Neighbors gets where he forecasted to be by the end of the year, yeah, that's true. I just know that I've drafted a very consistent, in my opinion, consistently highly likely team to score points here. And since I'm not going to fire more than 5 or 6 bullets, which is what I was saying with letting in these cheaper tournaments, letting ADP dictate exposure, since I'm probably between now and the end of August, beginning of September, I'll probably fire this tournament no more than 6 to 8 times, maybe 10 max. But I'm going to go heavier into if they release a super draft format, I'm going to be going much heavier into that. If they release some of another puppy at $5, I'll be going much heavier into that because it's just for $5, get the enjoyment of drafting, make content for you guys, etc. But here I'm going to be a lot less willing to let ADP kind of dictate my squad and a lot more willing to say, hey, nah, this is who I actually think is the right selection there. So I'm going to be a lot more intentional building these drafts out. And I don't care if I have 100% exposure to James Cook in a format that I'm only going to fire 10 times when there's 672,000 entrants. I need every configuration I could possibly get with James Cook to give me a shot if I think James Cook is the guy, which I do, to give me a shot at winning $2 million. So here, yeah, I'll take Cook again, and I would probably take Cook as high as Lamb. Actually, I'd probably take Cook as high as 7 after St. Brown. I think that getting St. Brown up here is still a really nice piece to have, but I'd say Cook and St. Brown would be interchangeable for me at 6-7. I would have Cook above Lamb, above Jefferson, above McCaffrey, above Taylor, just as I believe, again, we haven't even seen James Cook's career year yet. And that could be wrong, but because I'm a Bills fan, I hope I'm right. But also, I think that's what we're in for. So, all right. Enough about my squad. What else is going on the board? The Gibbs players said, yep, we got our hero RB. Went Pickens, Rice, Bird, and Evans. Nice little stack there. The Robinson player is really balanced. I actually like this. I think I would have opted for Montgomery here, but there was a Swift Junkins pull up here, which is interesting. Anyway, all that to say, Robinson, Bucky Irving, Bowers, Olave Waddle, no slouch team there. Everybody looks pretty balanced. Travion Henderson is RB1 in round 5 after going Smith and Jigba, Drake London, Garrett Wilson, McBride. I think is completely serviceable. The only team that's behind, really behind, is the squad at 12, which we'll talk more about in a minute. Here we have our opportunity for Bashal Tune. We could also take Christian Watson or Connell Tate. I'm pretty high on Watson this year. I think the back end of last year showed us what his role is going to be this year. If he stays healthy, you could also make an argument for Carnell Tate, but if he stays healthy, we've already seen what he can do, and I don't think that Carnell Tate can't do that. I do believe that. But super interested in adding Watson and feeling very good about our starting 3 after going Cook Barkley. The player to our left who took Neighbors has kind of done the same thing. Although weirdly, I kind of like my starting 3 better than his starting 3 in both respects. So just think we have uh, a better team. I guess subjectively better team, but to me, objectively better team from there. All right, here we have the option of hitting Jaden Daniels if we wanted. I actually am pretty inclined to do that. I think Tyson and Washington and Harrison are all good. I think Bashal Tutin is also considered a grab, but I think I want to grab Jaden Daniels, and this is not going to prevent me from looking at um, uh, Herbert here and saying, okay, these are the 2 guys we're hanging our hat on for this draft. We're pairing our first 2 wide receivers up with their quarterbacks. Both quarterbacks could easily be in for 4,000 plus yard throwing seasons, and feel pretty good about that while we have them stacked with the number 1 receiver. We could look to grab Jordan Love later. If we get sniped on Herbert, that is a consideration. And I do think in these drafts you want 3. I think you really want 3. It's at least the education that's been imparted on me is that 3 quarterbacks is the way to go. So maybe there is a world where we look to, excuse me, put Love somewhere in here. So we'll I guess stay open to that even if we get Herbert. But I think with Cook and Barkley, the one thing I want to make sure I do, and this we got sniped in the last draft on this, is get Ray Davis. And I know that Ray Davis's ADP is about 190, and we're going to be at like 183, 178. But he got sniped on the way back for me here. We're not making that mistake again. So we're going to earmark pick 183 and say, hey, Ray Davis is on our radar. Let's make sure he hasn't jumped at all in ADP. If he has, he's probably moved slightly. Um, Ray Davis, he's at 189. He's moved up a tick. Okay, the reason I want to prioritize Ray Davis is Ray Davis is amazing, and the reason he is not the starter is because we have James Cook. Ray Davis, I believe, would be a starting running back on like 15 NFL teams. And I'm not going to sit here and name them for you, but I think I'm right at 15. If I think that through maybe a minute draft, I'll say I actually counted. But I think he's better than a lot of the starting running backs, or at least at this stage in his career, he's a much better prospect to become much better than a lot of these guys. So all that to say, yeah. All right. So interestingly enough, Quentin Johnson goes off the board there, and I was about to say if he sneaks back to us, I'm going to get super greedy, snap him off, and try to wheel Herbert. Now, I don't really care. We'll evaluate Herbert against the rest of the pile and see what we want to load into here. Tucker Craft is interesting, and we could grab Jordan Love later with Tucker Craft. There's also Pollard, Stevenson, Reed, and Lawrence, who are all respectable clicks. Obviously, Lawrence we're not stacked with, so we'll leave that to someone else. I like Harvey and Dowdle as well. So here, given that we just lost the opportunity for that receiver in Reed, which I was going to talk about, I'm going to actually take Herbert and try to wheel Tucker Craft. If we don't wheel Tucker Craft, it's not the end of the world. I like Jordan Addison, and I'm actually getting higher on Josh Downs by the day with the news of Alec Pierce starting on the pump. Not that I think that Alec Pierce isn't going to produce. In fact, we have him on the last team. But these are both very solid wide receiver options, and I think there's a tier break after Downs before Worthy. If you want to argue that Worthy and Pearsall are also in that tier, you could convince me of that. But certainly then there's a drop off just because of the quality of offense with Pittman and Wilson. And I do like J.K. Dobbins in this range, so I tend to take him over this set of receivers. Here, it looks like Tucker Craft is going to be available to us, and if we do that, I think that almost stamps us in to take Jordan Love. He is. I do like these running backs. I think that Pollard is a completely not only serviceable RB3, but probably a good RB3 to have. I just think the upside on Kraft is so high. I think that he could easily be a top five tight end if he can stay healthy. And I think I'm just interested in tucking him in here. And then I think right here at 111, we're real close to ADP on Jordan Love. Yep, 112.2. So I think what we do is we don't have to prioritize him and take a play at him here. I think we try to grab a receiver or a running back, snap him off, snap Jordan Love off here if we get him. If we don't, not the end of the world. And then we're really set up nicely, and we have a nice balanced squad. Having Herbert and Daniels and then taking a third quarterback up here does feel a little bit greedy. I'm not going to lie. So we'll have to assess the positional players available, but it does feel a little greedy after going Daniels Herbert, not to just tuck a Fernando Mendoza or Aaron Rodgers or Geno Smith in down at the end and just say, well, that's our weird upside. So we'll see. At 106, the range of players we're looking at is like Jacoby Myers, which I do like this year. Kyle Pitts, so maybe it was right to take an Addison or a Downs and then try to get a Pitts on the way back. That might have been the right move. You still have Kyler Murray and better before Love. So we'll get him at 111 if we want to, I believe. But I do like the prospect of Jordan Mason this year. So he'll be right in that range as well. And I think Jordan Mason is the kind of running back where you're happy to have him as your third one because of his upside. We have quite a few picks before us coming up. The range of players here kind of is the tier break, which is why I think you see so many of these quarterbacks show up here. Gainwell and White, you can make an argument for them as well. I'm pretty high on both of their prospects this year, especially considering that there's a lot of variability around the way that Bucky Irving's going to be handled, even if he is fully healthy. And I think Rachaad White is just better than Krusty Merritt, so I think Rachaad White slots into that role. So, we do have to start 3 wide receivers, so we don't want to fall too far behind. So taking running back, quarterback here is a little greedy, especially when, again, you'd still have Matthew Golden, Wandell, Romeo Dobbs, Casey Concepcion. So I'm kind of talking myself out of Jordan Love, even though we have Watson and Kraft, because I think that really after you get past, for me, Concepcion, there is a tangible tear drop off in players, right? Aaron Jones and below, with the exception of some of these tight ends, is the tear drop off there. So if we can get our hands on 2 of these players before the tear drop off happens, I think we're pretty incentivized to do that. Like the ability to pick up Jacoby Myers here and then a Rashad White, a Gainwell, a Jordan Mason on the turnaround is it's to me just too enticing. So I think I talked myself out of Love, even though we steamed on it, and even though we have Watson and Kraft, we've got Daniels and Herbert. I may pick up a third quarterback later. Heck, if Jordan Love wheeled all the way around us, great. But what we're doing with our roster by being able to add McConkey, Lauren Watson, add Myers to that stack, and then add our third running back here is ultimately so much stronger, I think, than just having Jared Love as Jordan Love as a third option behind Jaden Daniels and Justin Herbert. I think both who will vie for top 5, and one of them has to if this team's going to win any significant amount of money. So, like, since we already bet on that, I think it's just too important. Here, I'm going to take Mason over Gainwell. I just think there's a real path for Mason to just be the starting back in that backfield. If he's not already decided that, he will be. And Gainwell will be filling in more situationally. So for the volume, I think Jordan Mason's going to see more of it, for sure. So to that end, Jordan Love, if he wheeled all the way down here to 130, yeah, potentially I'd take a look at him. I just don't see that happening. The May player only has one quarterback. The Jackson player only has one quarterback. The uh, 5 drafter has no quarterbacks. So someone's going to snap off Jordan Love. Well, we're looking at across the board. Hampton Brown, Allen Loveland, then goes Adunze Tate, Lawrence Downs, Rashad White, Wandell Robinson. So honestly, after not taking a receiver through 4, they shored up their wide receiver room pretty nicely. So I think they did a great job catching up with Rome Odunze Tate, Downs, Robinson, right? We only have 4 receivers through the same amount of rounds. I like our receiving room better, but they do have Allen and they've got Hampton and Brown, so they've got and Loveland, so they've got a really good team, I think, for not taking a wide receiver until round 5. For us, again, we need to play catch up at wide receiver just from a volume standpoint, but I'm happy to tuck Mason in there as my third running back. Feel pretty good about that. The team drafting to our left went Taylor H.N., then went Higgins, Neighbors, Williams, then Brad Tootin, Reed, Pollard, Dart, and Goff. That makes sense. Right? They did, both of these teams went double quarterback back to back rounds, and they did it 3 rounds after we started that, and they picked up some pretty significant um, player value there. And yeah, you could say, hey, this is just such a much better value on Darkoff or Stafford Nix. I'd have to argue that uniquely, Daniels Herbert, just like a Drake May Herbert or a Burrow Herbert in this area, is vastly superior based on the projected offenses this year. So, but that's why we draft them. All right, now we see a run. This is interesting. If we see that sort of economy of tight ends take hold here, there's a chance Jordan Love could fall. I mean, the Jackson player only has one. This player, Njigba, London, McBride, Wilson, Henderson, Hubbard, Sutton, Dobbins, Worthy, Higgins has none. You've got to imagine they taking Jordan Love here, right? I mean, what are they taking, Aaron Jones or Dalton Kincaid? They do Jordan Love. Yeah, that just makes too much sense for them. Unstacked, but that's fine. I don't have to worry about him. I've got all his receiving threats. So, at least in this pod. After we get out, remains to be seen. So, all right, 130 is coming up for us. I do like some of these running backs. Do like Kincaid. I do like Likely. I think we're going to be interested in Gatson later. So I don't think I'm going to take one of these these tight ends. I don't think I'm going to sprint up for Kincaid. Besides, the drafter are right on Kincaid. So it's Crosty Merritt, Chris Rodriguez, Shahid Coker, Travis Hunter, Amari Cooper. Honestly, I'm highest on McMillan out of all these guys. So I think we take Krusty Merritt here. I'm higher on Rashard White than him, but I am happy to have him as a fourth running back. And then we're not going to take Yatson, obviously. We're going to look to pick up. I mean, honestly, Hunter, I guess, is fine. Cooper's okay. I think I'm highest on McMillan. Naylor will pick up one of these receivers. Juwan Jennings is down there. Um, he may have a part of that offense. It's going to depend on how some of these guys click. But, honestly, we could also just grab. I think I want to grab another wide receiver, but we could just grab a Malik Willis here. I think he's totally fine unstacked, and yeah, it feels not bad. But I think, honestly, of all these guys, I'm going to pull up McMillan. I think I'm most interested in him. I do want to grab my fifth receiver here. There's another tier break coming up on receivers, kind of after Flournoy, Trey Harris. Like, you get into this real weird. I'm pretty high on Stribling this year, but I don't have a ton of them. This is a real weird area. We'll take Mendoza or Rogers later, and maybe we can pick up a Fryermuth or Bernard and just be okay with that. Okay, our team so far is Daniels, Herbert, love it. Cook, Barkley, Mason, Merritt, love it. McConkey, McLaurin, Watson, Myers, McMillan, love it, and Tucker Craft. Might be one of the best teams I've drafted on this platform in any format. That's a great fantasy football team. Or at least I think it is. Let me know in the comments. You guys think it is? I don't know. I think it's wildly great. Yeah, we'll grab a third quarterback. If we don't, I'm okay with it. I'm totally okay with just these two guys. I'm going to go up to probably 5 running backs, 7, and I think we do end up with 3 tight ends. If we had taken a better tight end than well, you know what? We did pass on Chid. I should have considered Chid when he was still on the board, I suppose. I wasn't thinking about that with Daniels. But we did pass on a range of tight ends that would have made me more inclined to stick with 2 tight ends with Kraft and the other one over whomever we took, over going 3. Since we missed out on that tier, it's kind of like um, it's kind of like this tier right here, where you've got like Fannin, Pitts, Laporta, Kittle to a lesser degree of me, but even down to like Likely, and I actually have Likely above Kelsey and Andrews this year. Goddard first, and if we had gotten one of these guys, Likely or better, I probably would have said maybe 2. Like if we had taken Chig here over Krusty Merritt, I probably would have said that 2 is at least considerable. When we pass that range, I'm going to be more inclined to grab a couple. I do like Benton Strange a lot too. I'll probably take Gatson here, not just as ADP, because I have Herbert, but I think Strange is in for a pretty decent year. There is this other range of quarterbacks here that we can look to maybe snipe on the turnaround. So, like, I am higher on a Ward, Darnold, or Jones than I am uh, Mendoza or Rogers. And since we already are up to 5 receivers and feeling pretty good about it, getting Jacoby Myers and McMillan are completely respectable tuck-ins here behind McConkey, McLaurin, and Watson. Although I did just notice we have 3 receivers on bye week 7, and that's going to be a problem. I mean, not like the worst problem ever. Oh man, Gatson gets sniped from us? That sucks. Alright, I mean, it's not the end of the world. It doesn't break our team. Wait, yeah, he went all the way back here. Wild. Okay. Yeah, just is what it is. I guess I like Hunter Henry and I like Juwan Johnson. Yeah, they're not going to be stacked, but I think I'll probably grab Hunter Henry here. And then what I'm going to do is evaluate one of these quarterbacks or Juwan Johnson on the turn. And if all of them go, we have outs to Jonah Coleman. The other thing is, I did want to remind myself of this, is that we've got to pull Ray Davis up here if we don't take him here. I don't think we want to pull Ray Davis up that high. He is key. He is absolutely key to this team's production, though, in terms of safety, right? Because I know if Cook goes down, Davis is automatically in it, and he's a top 12 back in the league, at least to me. And that offense, he has absolutely the ability to be a top 10 scoring back in that offense. So, got to get him. Don't really highly prioritize him. Here, I do like Daniel Jones better than a lot of these other folks. I really do. So I think I'm going to snap him off. If we don't, we get like a Jonah Coleman, but I know I'm going to prioritize. Yeah, I'm going to take Jones. I know I'm going to prioritize getting Davis in the next round, which will bring us up to 5 running backs, which is kind of where I want to be. I guess the other consideration there should have been Tank Bigsby because we have Saquon Barkley, but I don't know how much I believe in Tank Bigsby to be as effective as I know Ray Davis is in that offense. We've seen it. Then Tank Bigsby stepping in. But I guess maybe that was the right place for Tank Bigsby, and then we go Tank. That would have put us on 6 running backs, though. I guess we could have stuck with 2 quarterbacks at that point. I don't know. Interesting debate. But I still am more interested in Ray Davis in that offense. Um, right. I just think if Saquon Barkley was to go down, that may change how they're calling that offense. And I think you don't see the pure volume that Barkley's going to definitely command. So the turnaround here as we get back, we're going to grab Davis. I'm not fooling around with that. I'm going to get him out of the way. I don't want the Allen player making inroads or anything like that. We're going to snap off Davis at 178. At 183, if there shouldn't be, but if there are some of these names, I'm interested in them. Gunnar Helm, Dulcich. If not, Branch is fine. Malik Washington's fine. Since we're going Ray Davis, we're not picking up Sean Tucker, but Kate Otton's fine. Jeremy Bernard's fine. I mean, all these guys are totally fine. Obviously, we're reaching on Davis, so we're pulling him up. There'll be some of these guys available beforehand because we're still going to be at 183 here. So we're kind of in that cutoff range right here at Branch, which is fine. I think I'd be happy to have Branch or Bernard or even Malik Washington. I don't think he's a zero as my sixth. For my seventh wide receiver, I don't think Daniels and Herbert have a ton of late round options. I think we've already passed out on Trey Harris, which is fine. So I think if there's any like sneaky late round stacking, I'm not aware of it for either of these guys. Antonio Williams, I think we're past his range as well. Oh no, he's coming up. So okay, Antonio Williams could be. He's looking like he's going to be a completely legitimate slot option for them. I'm still taking Ray Davis before we flip around, and if that means I pass on Antonio Williams, okay. I know that Antonio Williams is going to win you Best Ball Mania. Could be wrong. Mark my words. Let's look back on this video in a year and say, oh man, Antonio Williams, you needed him. I don't even have the option. Doesn't matter. You got sniped. So, but yeah, we're going to snap Ray Davis here as long as he doesn't get taken in these next 2 picks. And then we're going to be done at running back and feel really good about the room. Really good about the room. And then a couple more receivers and a tight end, and we are donezo. And that's why, again, depending on what's available here, I like the tight ends. I like AJ Barner. I like Dulcich. I like Helm more than I like Malik Washington, Jeremy Bernard, or Dontavian Wicks. So we know that on the way back, if we grab a tight end here, we're just going to grab 2 whatever wide receivers, though. And I don't know how important it is to have a quality of AJ Barner, Dulcich, or Helm when we already have Kraft and Henry versus getting one more respectable wide receiver. Actually, now that I think about it, it's probably higher, especially when we can maybe get Freiermuth down on our next pick. So it's either Malik Washington or Dontavian Wicks. Man, I don't know. That's a really hard click over like an AJ Barner. Yeah, man, I'm just gonna go with my gut on this one. I maybe the balance is off here, but like AJ Barner is a legit option. You know what I just noticed? You're probably noticing it right now too. All of my tight ends are on bye week on week 11. Draft fail. I don't know what to say. And 3 of my wide receivers have week 7 bye. 3 of my running backs have week 7 bye. Man, I did not draft this team well. 2 of my quarterback. Man, I guess that's what happens when you just stackity stack. All right, well, week 7, I'm in trouble. I don't know what to say. This team's not producing week 7, but let's make sure our last wide receiver isn't on bye in week 7, so at least we can hope to field 3 or our last 2 wide receivers. So that being said, our draft is going to be right here at 202 and 207. So we'll grab what we got here and take a look. So that's Pat Bryant, Ted Hurst, Surratt, Coleman. I'm not including Cup. I'm not taking Cup. Thornton I liked in this range. Booty if it gets traded. Yeah, we're going to snap off 2 of these guys. Daniels, Herbert, Daniel Jones. Cook, Barkley, Mason, Merritt, Ray Davis. Crosby, Merritt, Ray Davis. Lab, McConkey, McLaurin, Watson, Myers, McMillan, Tucker Craft, Henry, AJ Barner. Okay, if I had to draft this team over again, I would have probably passed on Justin Herbert, picked up a positional player, either a receiver or a running back in that range, probably a receiver in that range, and picked up Jordan Love at ADP and had him double stacked. Not because I think Love is going to be better. I just think our roster probably would have been a little bit stronger with the positional player in the Herbert range. And I'm speaking about um, Godwin, Downs. Well, I guess we got Kraft here. So Godwin, Downs, Pollard, like that range of players. I think adding one of them, like a Downs or a Godwin, to our wide receiver stack would make us infinitely stronger. And we still would have had Love. And honestly, we would have wound up with Jones stacked with Josh Downs. Sometimes I think it's really important to look back at the draft that you just did, even while you're doing it, and say, hey, is there anything I maybe would have wanted to do different? Obviously, no two draft boards are the same, and because of that, you don't know what's going to happen. But highly likely, I would have been able to snap off Love back here, whereas ADP is if he fell this far. So that's probably a sign that, especially the quarterbacks he's grouped up with the Murrays, the Mayfields, the Shucks, the Knicks, that's certainly a world where, yeah, I think we are super strong with a Pollard, Godwin, or Downs, or even a Harvey or a Pittman, along with our crew. And we would have gotten, yeah, a set receiver, but like, I don't need Daniels and Herbert to be off the wall. I just need one of them to be, and so Love would have been that good fill in. So, also probably would have diversified our bye week situation up there a little bit better. But you live and you learn. So here, I'm honestly okay with all these guys. I think I probably like Tyquan Thornton the best as a click coming out back here, but we'll get him in the last round. So I'll take, who do I want to throw in here? I guess maybe Ted Hurst or Pat Bryant. Fired with fell to be expected. I think this is the same guy. I think I have plenty of Hurst. You know what? Maybe I just take Hurst because we do have McMillan. And then we'll grab Tyquan Thornton. And yes, I know he's not a week 10 bye week, but it's not a week 7. So Coleman would have been another consideration, but he's not a week 7, and I don't think any of these guys are that much different. So I'm going to go ahead and take Tyquan Thornton here just to make sure we have an extra receiver. I think these guys are all the same. And if I was extremely convicted on Keon Coleman, I would take him here, but I'm not that convicted on him. I don't know. And I'm a Bills lover. I just don't know. All right. Overall, really strong draft. Final team is Daniels, Herbert, Jones. Maybe didn't need to do a third QB. That's the other thing. Cook, Barkley, Mason, Krosky, Merrick, Davis at running back. McConkey, McLaurin, Watson, Myers, McMillan, Hurst, and Thornton at wide receiver. Kraft, Henry, and A.J. Barner at tight end. Love it. Most of these teams came out pretty balanced. The Gibbs player really did play hero RB. Got Monundai and Dowdle and Coleman and Tucker, which they stacked up late, but they're banking on Gibbs being the guy, and they're banking on one of these guys making their flex pretty regular. They did get Williams stacked with Evans, and they got Prescott stacked with Pickens, so that's pretty good, pretty darn good. Yeah, pretty balanced teams across the lobby. All right, thank you for checking out the video. Thank you for checking out the draft. I greatly appreciate it. If you liked it, please hit the like and subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next one.